A very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight on the evening review. My name is Taiwo Jabela. Tonight on the platform, we are welcoming back Duminga Ndala. She is the lead youth leader for the Landless People's Movement, and she is here to help us unpack the recent results of national exams as released by the Minister of Education. Thank you very much, Duminga, for making time. Perhaps before we go to the results, we have lost our founding president. I am not sure if I have seen any pronouncements from your party. I know that some of your party leaders have been very critical of Sam Nujoma. What is the take of your party? Maybe you can't speak for the big party, but what is LPM's attitude towards this said development?
Good evening, Trevor, and thank you for having me. I think we did pronounce ourselves as a party and as well as the Youth League. We did release a press statement to say that the late president played a very significant role in the liberation of our country, one. Two, you would also see that he was very passionate about the development of young people, and this is why even during his time in exile, he has led young people to join the liberation struggle so that they can achieve political freedom. So I think it's very sad that we have lost him. Of course, it was expected given his age, but I think as Namibians, we enjoy each and every one across the country in mourning and actually celebrating a well-lived life, because he did his part. And now I think it's time for us, especially young leaders, to take the struggle forward and to achieve economic emancipation in our lifetime. So I think as a party, you have seen that a lot of our members, especially those that are represented in government, they have joined the different memorial services throughout the country, and we are really sympathetic with all Namibians. And as a party, we recognize the significant role that Sam Nujoma has played, just not in Namibia but across Africa and the world, and we will celebrate indeed his life.
Yeah. Wonderful. No, I needed, because we are flooded, especially us in the media, we are flooded with so many messages to the extent that it became very difficult to really get to each one of them. So I might have missed the LPM pronouncements, and it's good that you now placed on record that indeed that is how you viewed him. Now, to the subject, what was your reaction to your immediate feeling towards the results that were announced by the minister just, was it end of January, somewhere there in the middle? Yeah.
I think they were very catastrophic in nature. You have seen that as important stakeholder within the education fraternity, we had high hopes that this year's results were going to improve compared to last year. But I think we have seen that the high failure rate amongst these learners shows the systematic challenges within our education system. One, that we do not have the necessary learning support structure of our learners. You have noticed that we have moved to the new curriculum, which is the AS level, and with us moving to the new curriculum, we have not really provided the necessary infrastructure so that it can aid learning. One, two, a lot of our learners do not have the necessary textbook to sort of provide the necessary results that we are looking for. So I think overall, we as stakeholders in the education fraternity, we have not provided the necessary infrastructure to aid learning. We also have not provided the necessary support to our teachers, because you would know that most of our teachers have not attended any post-learning programs so that they can capacitate and empower themselves to better deliver the lessons in class. So I think that is one thing that we need to tackle, especially the Ministry of Education. Perhaps we need to have a curriculum review as to how we are going to go forth, so that this curriculum really speaks to the social economic realities of our economy and also to the job demands of our country. So I think it's really important that we all come to the table, engage, have thorough consultation with each and every stakeholders within the education fraternity. If not, I think next year we are going to be here and we are still going to discuss the high failure rate amongst these learners.
Yeah, it has gone on for too long now. This failure rates. What I find strange is this two exit system where people can exit the system at grade 11 level, and a few proceed to grade 12. And the challenge with those that are exiting at grade 11 level is that institutions like UNAM have put their foot on the ground and say, no, you're not coming here. Do you think UNAM is right to do that, or are you part of those who say no, the university must start accepting people from grade 11?
Well, Trevor, it's a question of whether there was thorough consultation with the institutions of higher learning and the basic education institution. I think during our observation, we have noticed that there was no thorough consultation done, and that this curriculum was actually adopted in isolation. Of course, we understand UNAM that they want to keep the international standard of only accepting those that have finished schools at grade 12 level. We understand that, but I think it's high time that they also become flexible in terms of their admission, because now we have adopted a curriculum, and obviously there should be an interlink between what is being implemented at basic education and what is being done at higher education system. And this is why we said we need to call for a curriculum reform, so that we see how we can factor in the demands of institutions of higher learning. 1, 2, I think the basic education department itself, they need to be held accountable because they have not done due diligence. And this is why we have a lot of learners being outside and not being admitted at institutions of higher learning. Of course, we understand UNAM's position in that they are only willing to accept grade 12 learners, but also in terms of their operations, they need to be flexible, and they also have to realize that we as a country have sort of moved to a different direction, and which is AS level, and that is something that that needs to be adopted in all our educational system. So, like I said, thorough consultation with the necessary stakeholders, and we also need to reform the curriculum and to really analyze what is it being taught. Does it speak to the socioeconomic realities of Namibia? Does it speak to the technological advancement of our country, because we are a country that wants to achieve Vision 2030, and how do we achieve Vision 2030 without putting up the necessary systems within our education system if we are failing right now? So I think those are some of the few things that we need to do going forth.
I mean, UNAM, I would imagine, they can speak for themselves, but I would imagine that they are refusing to be a party to a situation where people have essentially lowered the standards.
Yes.
To say, okay, no, people are not passing. What do we do? Let's lower the standards. Let some of them go from grade 11 straight to university. And UNAM says, no, if you're going to lower the standards, we're not going to play that game. So somehow they can say that they're justified. I mean, I am a proud product of the University of Namibia.
I'm also a proud product of the University of Namibia.
Yeah, and the standards during our time were very, very, very good.
Correct.
What I find strange today is, imagine somebody coming from grade 12 and another one exiting at grade 11, and then you sit in the same class at UNAM like nothing like you did. It's crazy.
Yeah.
At NAST, I know that I'm told, I don't know if it's true, but I'm told that there are specific courses that you cannot do because they are admitting people who exited at the grade 11 level, but those can only do certain courses, even degree courses, of course, but there are some degree courses that you must have passed AS level in order to be admitted to those. But back to the question, UNAM would say, look, we don't want to lower our standards.
Yeah. I think the reason why UNAM does not want to lower the standard is because I think we need to make a distinction. At institutions of higher learning, we have what we call professional degrees and academic degrees. And unfortunately, UNAM offers a lot of professional degrees. And within the professional degrees, it has professional bodies that have requirements and that should keep their standard. And this is why UNAM had sort of put a stand to say that they are not willing to accept those that have exited school at grade 11 level. Of course, in terms of NAST, I think they are looking at the level of understanding and how one can sort of go through those degrees. And this is why they are very specific as to which degree one can take and which degrees are only exclusively for grade 12 learners. Yeah, like I said, we do understand UNAM's position to keep the international standard, correct? But I think one thing that we need to do, especially at the Ministry of Basic Education level, is to ensure that the content of AS level is recognized by local universities, one, and it's also benchmarked with global universities or international universities rather, because now, if we need to be honest, if you have to apply at an international university, you are obviously not going to be accepted because you have exited grade 12 at school at grade 11 level. So perhaps it has to do with a matter of benchmarking and also convincing them as to this is what we are offering. Then how do we then sort of make the curriculum tailor-fit to the requirements of institutions of higher learning?
Yeah, absolutely. How much accountability should, you spoke about structural issues there, but others are pointing fingers at the minister in that portfolio, Anang Ipondoka, to say that under her leadership, the country has failed to produce results that are satisfactory. She is not going to Parliament as matters stand,
yes,
unless President-elect Netumana Ndetwa picks her for the 8 non-voting members of Parliament that she's going to pick. Do you think she deserves another bite at the cherry?
Well, of course not. One, she has misled the whole nation to say that there was thorough consultation or wide consultation with the stakeholders within the education fraternity. Two, she has not taken up accountability to the high failure rate. I think in terms of her engagement, she would always point fingers to the teachers, that the teachers are lazy, that the teachers are this. So she has been characterizing teachers and also learners that they are not raising to the occasion so that they study and pass. But I think as a ministry itself, they have not taken accountability. And that speaks to the leadership failure that we have in this country, one. Three, I think the education system should be looked at it from a tripartite relationship. It involves teachers, principals, and all other necessary stakeholders. Yeah. I think the teachers too should also take accountability to the high failure rate, because what do they do? How do they contribute to ensure that the learning process has been made easier in class? One, two, obviously we know that there are a lot of structural issues within our education system. One, we do not have the necessary infrastructures to ease the learning process. Two, we have a shortage of resources such as textbooks. There are some schools that do not even have the necessary infrastructures to facilitate training in terms of classrooms, laboratories, and so forth. But I think all necessary stakeholders, even the parents, they need to hold accountable as to why we have such a high failure rate of the country. I remember 2 years ago we had the education conference, but we do not know what the resolutions of that conference were and how are they going to be implemented to ensure that the results improve. But I think the minister, as the sole custodian of the basic education institution, should be held accountable and definitely should not be retained because she has no remorse or she has no idea on how to improve the results going forth.
Yeah. Okay. We go for a very short break and return with Duminga Ndala. The conversation continues with Duminga Ndala, who is the lead youth leader for the Landless People's Movement. Now, I I beg to differ with you on teachers. I do not deny that there might be some that are not pulling their weight. But have you been to schools to see the conditions of the schools in which they are expected to produce results? Some schools in Kavango recently had to shut down because teachers said the ablution facilities are not working for months. Some children are taught under trees, and during rainy season, especially during a year like this when we are blessed with so much rain, there's just roofs leaking and stuff like that. It's terrible. I mean, it's a miracle actually that for me that they are producing what they are producing, because it could have been very worse. Do you think that the environment is conducive for them to deliver the results?
Of course not. I remember 2 years ago, as the lead youth leader of the LPM Youth Command element, I had an opportunity to tour around schools within the Kavango West and East region. Of course, the situations in which our teachers and learners are subjected to, it's very horrible, very catastrophic in nature. And I think we have raised this issue in terms of really providing proper infrastructures in order to ease the learning process with the Ministry of Basic Education, but of course they have not done anything. Yes, teachers can't be entirely be blamed for that, we can agree, but I think there should be some level of accountability from them as teachers. There should also be some level of, they should be willing to, even under any circumstances, to really ensure that these learners pass and that we have a high pass rate. We understand that, of course, that the education budget, most of it goes to salaries and does not go to the operations and the infrastructural development within the education sector. And this is why we are hoping that this year it will be different, and that most of the budget will be dedicated to the infrastructural development as well as the operations of the ministry as a whole. But you would see that we have a crisis, and that the country is actually providing more teachers and they are unable to absorb them in the labor market. So perhaps it's a matter of how can we sort of review our education budget. Even if we say let's increase it, I don't think we are going to get the necessary results, because you would see that education is one of the sectors that get the highest budget of our national budget, and still we are not producing the necessary results. So perhaps we need to scrutinize and to see as to how do we help teachers even under their current circumstances to produce the necessary results that is needed. Or perhaps it's also high time for us to collaborate with international donors to see how we can build the necessary infrastructures so that our learners are under the conducive environment and they are also able to learn in adequate structures.
Yeah. It's ironic that we are discussing this matter now, because this very week I wrote an editorial in Namibian Sun in which I was quoting a very old speech from 1910 by Theodore Roosevelt, who was the president of the US at the time. He was speaking in France. It's an iconic speech that talks about citizenship in the Republic. That was the title of the speech, and therein he was essentially talking about the responsibility of citizens in participating in the development of their own countries, so that that common goal is a result of a collective effort. He also went on to talk about the habit of people criticizing things from the sidelines. So in this case, you are not just an opposition party standing on the sidelines.
Of course.
if people were saying, oh, it's opposition again, oh, they're on TV, oh, they're just criticizing again like they always do. What does a party like yours do in a situation like this to improve things?
I think you would know that as the LPM, we govern 2 regions, and within the regions that we govern, we somehow control the budget because we govern the Hardap Regional Council as well as the the Karas Regional Council. I think apart from that, as an active party, and that is solution oriented, we had an education symposium 2 years ago where we invited the EDs of the basic education ministry to sort of give our alternative as to what should be done. I think one of the resolutions that we have, or one of the suggestions that we have given, was to sort of say that let's look at the whole education budget. How do we ensure that most of the budget is not only spent on salaries, but is rather spent on the development of the boy and the girl child in Namibia? That was one. 2, we're looking at how we can collaborate as necessary stakeholders. How do we reach out for international collaborations? How do we create that linkage between institutions of higher learning and basic education, and also obviously as stakeholders from the outside? Because the education system, like I said, it's just not a one-man show. It should be, it's a tripartite relationship. It involves each and every person. So I think that is one. 2, we looked as to how the local authority can be key players in terms of infrastructural development. How do they contribute towards building adequate and appropriate classrooms within their locality that they are based in? And of course, we have also tabled a motion in Parliament as to how do we reform the education system post-COVID-19, because you have seen most of these structural issues were revealed as a result of COVID-19, where a lot of learners could not access the educational materials because they do not have access to internet, and because obviously because of the because of the digital divide that we have in the country. So this is how we're saying, how do we then engage the telecommunications sector to also aid in terms of providing the necessary laptops, the necessary fibers, the necessary Wi-Fi, so that learning is made easy. I think we as a party, we have always been vocal about the high failure rate in the country, and we have always provided the solutions to the basic minister. But of course, as usual, these solutions are not taken into consideration, but we'll continue to give and to sort of be vocal about how we can transform the education sector. I think also one thing that is important, we have also suggested that it's high time that we actually create awareness around the enrollment of TVETs institutions. You have seen in this country that TVETs institutions have a bad perception of that. You only go there because you have not entered into the mainstream academy. But I think we need to sort of have a mind shift as to how we can incorporate the TVET university and how we can make it more attractive to Namibian people.
Yeah. Within 30 seconds, if you were speaking to, because we've run out of time now, but there's a new president coming into office. Of course, he comes from a different political party. In fact, your party is challenging even the manner in which she was elected. But yes, if she happens to be sworn in on the 21st of March, as it looks like, despite the pending judgment of the court, as a young person, what would you be saying to her if she was here right now?
I think as a young person, my message would be that for her to select the people with the necessary skills and the necessary know-how on how to transform, especially the education system I think it's high time that we move away from party loyalty, party politics, and that we really have the people that are willing to work and transform this country. 2, I think she needs to select those that are passionate and those that are passionate about driving the interest of Namibians, you would find that most of our cabinet ministers are not even passionate with empowering or transforming the social conditions of Namibians or the material conditions of Namibia. So I think whoever is going to be appointed as the Minister of Basic Education or even higher education should be passionate about transforming the education system, should put the interest of Namibians at first and not party politics.
Absolutely. Duminga, thank you very much for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that is Duminga Ndala. She is the title is very difficult. It's youth leader for the Landless People's Movement, reacting to the recently released national examination results and also expanding on to a few other topics. Thank you for watching.